Have you ever noticed that there are many links or connections between Noah and Moses? For instance, they both brought eternal covenants to the world. Moses, of course, with the establishment of the Ten Commandments at Mount Sinai, a covenant that stands to this day, as well as Noah with the establishment of the seven laws of Noah, or the Noahide laws, a covenant that also exists to this day and is the foundation of all international law. So both established eternal covenants. Both spent time in floating boxes, you could say. Of course, Noah with the ark during the flood, and with baby Moses, he also spent time in what is called in Hebrew hateva, which is the same word used for Noah's ark. When his mother could hide him no longer, she got a wicker basket, which is a teva, for him and caulked it with bitumen and pitch. And you'll remember that Noah's ark was also covered with pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds by the bank of the Nile. So both spent time in these floating boxes. And it came to pass in the 601st year, in the first month, the first day of the month, the waters were dried up from the earth, and Noah removed the covering of the ark. So here we have in the first month, the first day of the month, and in Exodus 40 with Moses, on the first day of the first month. It's the same. You shall set up the tabernacle of the tent of meeting. And then in Genesis 7, the rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. Moses went inside the cloud and ascended the cloud, and Moses remained on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. So you can again see another connection between Noah with the flood and Moses. 40 days and 40 nights. Then in Genesis 6:3, the Lord said, "My breath shall not abide in man forever, since he too is flesh. Let the days allowed him be 120 years." And then you go back to the end of the Torah, and Moses was 120 years old when he died. So here with Moses, God caps the human lifespan at 120 years, and also gave them 120 years to repent before he brought the flood. And then you have Moses dying at 120 years old. So those are just a handful of the many links or little clues that made me think I'm going to now look up every single time that Moses and Noah show up in sources together. So I've created a compilation basically of sources, the best sources. I've gone through all of them and picked out the best ones that will be the most interesting. According to the Arizal, Noah was even punished for not rebuking the pagans in his time. His punishment consisted of his soul being reincarnated in the body of Moses, in order to accomplish then what it had failed to accomplish on its first round inside a human body. Very interesting. So there is something going on here with all this repetition. Noah was reincarnated inside the body of Moses. Moses made up for the sin of omission of Noah by constantly rebuking the Israelites for their shortcomings. Moses, by offering his own life on behalf of his people during the episode of the golden calf, atoned for Noah's insensitivity at this time. Moses is viewed by the Zohar as possessing a soul composed of all the souls destroyed in the deluge or the flood. Very interesting. I've never heard this one before. This is why our prophets refer to the flood as the waters of Noah. since Noah had not intervened on behalf of his contemporaries. And then they say here, God implied that Noah would be restored after his death to this stature when Moses, a reincarnation of his soul, would make up for his omission at this time. So Moses is really doing a tikkun for Noah, and Noah is being reincarnated in Moses. It's very interesting. And then they appear many other times together. Moses was more favored than Noah, and they go into it. This is well known as well. There's even a little discussion between the two of them in the sources, which we'll get into. And then they point out how there's 26 generations from Adam to Moses. So there were 10 generations from Adam to Noah, another 10 from Noah to Abraham, and 6 generations from Abraham to Moses and to the revelation at Sinai. And of course, 26 is the value of God's name. And it says here, why did these generations survive despite the fact that they did not learn Torah or perform mitzvot? And there's questions about that. They survived only because God sustained them through his mercy, even though they were undeserving. And then Bilam said to Balak, build 7 altars for me here in Numbers 23:1. Why 7 altars? They correspond to the 7 righteous ones from Adam to Moses who built 7 altars and had been accepted. And here you can see in the list of names, Noah and Moses again together. Everyone whose name is repeated in immediate succession experiences life in both worlds. And the first time this ever happens is with Noah. And you can see here the list again. And Moses again is included in a list that also includes Noah. So both Noah and Moses experience life in both worlds, this world and the world to come. It seems to me that the general and essential principles of divine law are 3: existence of God, providence in reward and punishment, and divine revelation. These 3 embrace all the principles of the various divine laws, such as the law of Adam, the law of Noah, the law of Abraham, law of Moses, and any other divine laws, if there be such, at the same time or in succession. So again, here they're acknowledging that all these who brought covenants to the world. Why was Noah's name repeated in succession like that? It was in order to persuade all those who enter the world, so that they wouldn't think of saying he was only righteous in his generation. We hear this argument all the time. The Holy One said, "For me he is the equal of Abraham," whose name is also repeated twice, and also with Moses, as we noticed earlier. The double name is used in order to give equality to the righteous ones. And then here we have this discussion. Noah then said to Moses, "I am greater than you, for I was preserved out of the generation of the flood, which is the worst generation ever." Moses replied, "I am superior to you, for you did save yourself alone and had not the power to save your generations. But I saved myself and also my generation at the time when they transgressed with the golden calf." Interesting argument there, back and forth. 10 things were created on the eve of the Shabbat or Sabbath at twilight. And these are, and then they list a bunch of them. The staff of Moses being one, and also the rainbow, which is the symbol of the covenant made with Noah. So here again, we kind of have Noah and Moses showing up in the same source. There were prophets before Moses, as the patriarchs Shem, Aver, Noah, Methuselah, and Enoch. But of these none said to any portion of mankind that God sent him to them and commanded him to convey to them a certain message, or to prohibit or to command a certain thing. This wasn't necessarily done, even though they were prophets in their own right. Why does Moses enumerate the generations of Noah with reference not to his ancestors, but to his virtues? He does this in the first place because all of the men of that age were wicked. Secondly, he is here imposing a law upon the will, because to an anxious follower of virtue, virtue itself stands in the place of a real generation, if indeed men are the means of the generation of men, but the virtues of the minds. And on this account, it is that he says he was a just man, this is said about Noah, perfect, and one who pleased God. But justice and perfection and grace before God are the greatest of virtues. Come and behold, Moses did not ask anything on the basis of his own merit. He depended on the merit of the patriarchs. But Noah, unlike Moses, had no other person on whose merit he could depend. That's very interesting. Rabbi Yitzhak said that even though this was the case, when the Holy One, blessed be He, said to him, "But with you will I establish my covenant," he should have asked for mercy for them as well, and he should have sacrificed the offering he gave after the flood before it happened. Maybe that would have calmed the judgment of wrath that hung over the world.